I'm more than a rare exception, you can't compare him. I'm fly as the Tuskegee Airman. My patience is as thin as her pants. You find a sucker cat that's...
Ladies and gentlemen, back by popular demand, it is 3 Count Commentaries. And I am your host, MagMongoSlade. And today we're going to be talking about the big, huge news of Cody Rhodes supposedly, allegedly, reportedly leaving AEW for the greener pastures and green meaning big money for the WWE. Now we're going to talk about this thing. We're going to talk about it logically. Logically speaking, we've been talking about Cody not having a contract for a little while now. Cody has swore up and down this is true, but Cody is also a carny, so who knows? But it seems to be true. Now, just because certain parts of this might be true, and I am willing to assert and willing to accept certain parts of this story as true, but other parts of this story, I'm not buying that. All right? We're going to talk about that, though. So first, we have to talk about the announcement. Cody Rhodes was announced to be gone, and this what made people believe that it was pretty official. By Tony Khan. So Tony Khan posted this. Cody and Brandi were integral in the launch of All Elite Wrestling. Cody's ability, combined with his boldness and his passion for our industry and his love for community outreach, helped AEW deliver on our mission to give fans what they needed for far too long. Something new, innovative, and lasting. Brandi helped us shape the AEW story, and I appreciate how hard she fought for us both in and out of the ring, competing in the women's division while advancing our efforts at inclusion and civic causes, including great partnerships with Culture City and the American Heart Association. I have immense respect and appreciation for Cody and Brandi, and I wish them both the best as they move on from AEW. Thank you, Cody and Brandi. Tony Khan, CEO, President, General Manager, and Head of Creative, All Elite Wrestling. He's everything. He's everything to everybody. The Constantines, of course, acted up. They just started acting a fool. All right. Some people are in denial about this. This, to me, makes it feel official. Mainly because it's one thing to say that Cody is leaving. Cody, again, is a carny. It's another thing to say Cody and Brandi is leaving. The reason why Brandi is what sets me off is simply because we had not been talking about Brandi leaving. We were kind of just talking about Cody. Where is he going to do? Yada, yada, yada. He's going to re-sign the contract, blah, 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 blah. But now both he and Brandi are gone. But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Cody put out a message as well. It is an absolutely atrociously long message. For Christ's sakes, Cody being Cody, of course, his massive ego, he couldn't just say thank you all, yada, yada, yada. He wrote half a goddamn the Poetic Edda. He wrote half of it on Instagram. Okay, so he wrote, I have loved my time at AEW. Amazing locker room, amazing fans, amazing people. The revolution was indeed televised, and I've been incredibly lucky to be a part of that. First, I want to thank Tony Khan. He's taken the baton and run with it, and it was an honor to work with him and to know him on a personal level. He's a beautiful soul. I obviously need to thank my incredible wife and mother of my baby girl, Brandi, for all of her love and support throughout this journey together, and the amazing relationship she fostered with Culture City and the American Heart Association. I also thank Nick and Mac Jackson. These two, whether they know it or not, took an undesired and not confident little cub and gifted me with the confidence to become a leader of the pack. Kenneth Omega, Chris Jericho, Chicken, we started the fire. I must thank Tim with Tim W, Keith M, Greg W, and the amazing production crew who understood and captured the vision with such grace. I can't name everybody, but thank you to Mega, Margaret, Harrington, Jeff Jones, Dana, Tony Schiavone, Byrne, Raph, and the hardest worker in the game, QT Marshall, for propping me up and kicking me in the ass when I was running on fumes. I must thank all my kiddos, MJF, Jade, Sammy, Darby, Lee, Ricky, Tom, The Guns, Brock, Velvet, Nyla, Aubrey, Turner, Vanilla, Solo, Spears, Julia, Anna, Will, Wardlow, Sonny, Fuego 1, and of course Negative 1. This dude, I'm stopping right here because I had not read this before I started reading it here. This is far too fucking long. Okay, this is enough. We're going to try to find the end of this thing. We're going to try to find where's the end of this. Something about Amanda Huber. I left it all on the mat. Everything pales in comparison to the final contribution I was empowered to lead at the company, the community outreach team. In the most inward moments, your outward behavior and your ability to take or fame and influence and do something of value for the communities you visit, whether they are on cameras or off, is the highest honor. I am confident Amanda Huber will lead the department with style. I'm so proud of my creations and contributions and the items I supported and collaborated on with such wonderful professionals. Thank you, fans. Y'all did all the work. Let's live forever. Okay. Cody, massive ego. Massive ego. You think this dude was writing his own eulogy. Cody just sat down and decided he was dead. He was dying. He wrote down his own eulogy. I'm like, bruh, we don't need to thank everybody. All right? Not everybody. For Christ's sake, are you winning an Oscar? Is this your obituary? What the fuck? You're leaving the company. You're not dying. Anyway. So, that's a couple of subjects I want to talk about as we get ready to move on here. For starters, a lot of people have been saying this is a work. That's why I said Brandi leaving too kind of makes it a little bit more of official for me. Why would Brandi stay behind if this is all a work? But my question is, how would it benefit AEW for this to be a work? I've even seen some people say he's going to leave, then he's going to, get a WWE contract, and he's going to come back and rip it up on AEW television. And I would say to myself, is that going to bring extra eyeballs to AEW Dynamite? No. I don't think so. I don't believe it is going to bring extra eyeballs to AEW for them to pump fake their existing fans, who are the only people who care about Cody and Brandi. Nobody cares about her. And so it's a weird thing. I don't think they really benefit from faking that Cody would leave. Another thing is, it wasn't built up at all. If it was on TV, built up in any way, like Cody, kept talking about, I know he mentioned it before the ladder match, and he mentioned it after the ladder match. It's entirely possible that it could be a work. I'm going to leave that door open, but I don't believe this is a work. I don't believe this is a work. So we're not going to get a payoff to that Brandi and Dan Lambert angle, which, praise God, because, it couldn't have gone well anyway. It was always going to be bad. Let's just get it right. And of course, I'm not heartbroken at all about Brandi getting off TV. I'm not upset about that one iota. Thank God. Praise God. No more Brandi. Praise God. All right. So of course, everybody's been talking about the coaster, going back to the Fed, going back to the WWE. That's but the part of this that kind of makes me laugh and cry, because I'm saying to myself, do we really need Cody in AEW? I mean, in AEW, he got this incredible legacy of being one of the founders, the face of the company. If I remember correctly, there were some people who were saying, hey, who's going to be the first one to go? And a lot of people said it was probably going to be Kenny Omega. I really wish if I could remember what my guess was. But I'm pretty sure my guess was Cody. Because he is not a member of the elite like the others are. But, I could be wrong. Maybe I was one of those people that saying that Cody wasn't ever going to go anywhere. And, it's true. Cody is, Mr. AEW. So it's kind of hard to believe that he is leaving. That's why, so many people are saying it's a work, and they're not going to believe it until he's actually gone. But I believe he's actually going to leave. All right, so WWE. What would be his value to WWE? Is Cody Rhodes a top guy? Is he a main event guy? Some people would say no. A lot of people would say Cody is not a top guy. He's not a main event guy. He doesn't have that level of talent. He's an upper mid-carder at best. Some people like Cody a lot more than they're willing to admit. I have always been on the train of I like Cody. I liked his promos. He was the only, for a long time, he was the only one working sensible matches in AEW. He was the most professional. He seemed to have the right stuff. Now, of course, Cody has a massive ego, and he's very dramatic. Like when he was doing this whole song and dance, when he's, pretending like he's dying, and he wants to thank everybody individually, like he won an Academy Award or some shit, like he just won an Oscar or a Grammy or something. That was the things about Cody that was easy to make fun of. When he comes out there doing the England versus America thing, when he's talking about racism, when he wants to be the massive hero, it was easy to make fun of Cody because, he gave you so much to make fun of. But his performances, I never really had a problem with his performance. I never thought he was a bad promo. He's a great promo. Especially better than most people in AEW as far as being able to do emotional stuff and, actually dig in with content in his promos. And his matches were, when they were good, they were structured and they made sense. Of course, sometimes he would get in there with like some indie dude and they would go out there and just start doing wild shit like him and Sammy Guevara, but what would Cody Rhodes' value be to WWE? So let's start right there. Here's the thing. Cody Rhodes is a main event talent. And Raw needs main event talents. So if there was ever a time for Cody Rhodes to jump ship, now would probably be the best time. WWE has no solidified number one with a bullet main event guy on Raw. They don't have one. Lashley is the closest thing they have to it. Brock is over there occasionally. But all the title switching they've been doing with that WWE belt is because they don't have a guy. Right? They took the belt off of McIntyre, gave it to Orton, took it back, gave it to McIntyre again, then gave it to Miz, then gave it to Lashley, then gave it to Big E, then gave it to Brock, now it's back to Lashley. It's because there's no stability. There's no foundation. A guy like Cody could come in and get a top spot. I mean, he's leaping over, Rey Mysterio or AJ Styles, guys who've been around for a while. He will be fresh, but he will also be familiar. He has history with a lot of guys on that roster, such as Randy Orton. I mean, just imagine if they started with the Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton story, where Cody used to be Randy's young boy. He used to be his protege. If they start with that story, and Randy really works on getting Cody over with the WWE audience, and then the hardcore audience who liked him from AEW, even though a lot of them turned on him later, they would definitely be tuning in to see what he does in WWE. And if they pair that with the older fans who remember him from Legacy, even before he was Stardust, you might actually have something there. You can do something with that. He also cut this promo in AEW once where he talked about he only wanted to get what he felt his dad had gotten gypped it out of, which is the WWE Championship. In the 1970s, Dusty Rhodes had a string of matches with superstar Billy Graham, in which Dusty usually lost by some type of chicanery. I think he actually did finally lose a Texas Death Match to superstar Billy Graham, I think in 1978 or something like that, or 77 or something. So you have built-in story, you have a lot of stuff going on with Cody. Is he a super huge mega star? No, he's not. Is he a good in-ring worker and a good promo who can carry a show if you give him the opportunity? Sure, because he's done it before. Do I think WWE would do that? Probably not. So a lot of people say he's going to go back to WWE, and the first thing they're going to do is put him back as Stardust. He's going to be back in the polka dots. They're going to do him just like Dusty. Cody his ego is too big for that. If he agrees to go back to WWE, it's going to be because they're going to push him. And to be quite honest, WWE would probably fuck over AEW a lot more by pushing Cody than they would by burying him. See, burying Cody is a waste of money. But if they take Cody and turn him into a legitimate money-making superstar, well, then they can fuck AEW in the face because he was over there for 2 years and helped start the company. And they didn't, push him to the top. Now, of course, if Cody was to leave AEW and go to WWE, it would be a loyalty question. You would say, why would you push a guy who left the company he helped to found to come back to WWE? Why would you trust that guy? Probably wouldn't trust him. And that probably would be the number one thing. Would WWE even trust Cody? That would be especially with all the litigation and all the little things he's been doing over the last couple of years with the Great American Bash and, trying to take his dad's intellectual property, naming stuff and all this kind of shit that he was doing, the little stuff that he was doing with breaking the throne, all that stuff. Now, I am of the opinion that a lot of people say, oh, McMahon's, they're so petty. And they are, to a degree. But they overlook a lot of shit. They usually overlook a lot of shit. There's so many guys who have talked so much shit about Vince, about Stephanie, about Triple H, and it usually only gets to a certain point before, they'll never forgive it. I don't think Cody's crossed that line. I think Cody has taken some cheap shots that would make good fodder if he was to go back. He would have to go through the humiliation ritual of people talking about, oh yeah, I remember when you broke that throne. How about it? Or whatever the case may be. I don't think he did or said anything that I would consider to be over the line that they would need to hire him and bury him for. I don't think WWE even wastes the money. If they say if they're going to hire the guy, especially since they're slimming down their roster, if they were willing to spend the money to get Cody, whatever, he's asking, then I think they would get him just to push him. And, try to fill that void, at least in their top spot on Raw for a little while until they got somebody else. Then he'd probably get the boot. All right. So that's one option. But I don't believe he's going back to WWE because I think he's going to go on a sabbatical. Now, the sabbatical could be that he leaves wrestling altogether. Cody has always wanted to do Hollywood stuff. He always wanted to be in TV shows. He got his reality TV show on TNT. Rhodes to the Top or whatever. He's still doing all his TNT shows or whatever the case may be. He's still doing all that stuff. So he has outside projects that he can do, that he can work on. And then he also has Hollywood connections that he can do, work on and do television and stuff like that. To me, that seems like that's probably would be the best thing for him to go and do. Is to go away for a while. Go become a bigger star in Hollywood. If you can do TV, do TV. If you can do movies. And then come back to AEW later. That would be my best guess. But there is some other options. Let's say he's not done wrestling. And WWE isn't really a thing. There's still New Japan. But is Cody going to humble himself and go to New Japan? Sure. He could probably get to the top in New Japan too. Question, would they even want him? Is his work rate on that level? And the answer is probably not. What about Ring of Honor? Could he go back to Ring of Honor? I mean, he helped kill Ring of Honor. Is it possible he could go back and rejuvenate Ring of Honor? Not likely. I don't think they could even scratch up the money. Impact, same thing. Now, I did see somebody say, well, Cody should just go and start his own promotion. There is I'm trying to remember the guy's name on Twitter, but he's a pretty smart guy. He talks about UFC all the time. And he says that Cody already has the connections and he always has proof of concept with AEW that if he can find the capital, the money, he probably could be the face of a whole new wrestling promotion, a fourth wrestling promotion. But that's a lot of energy, right? You're talking about finding somebody who's going to put the money in first. Then you're going to have to find somebody to put it on television. So you're talking about a lot of work. And he already went through this, like going through it with AEW. They used Tony Khan's connections in TNT to get on TNT. He would have to schmooze almost directly with, network executives and stuff like that in order to get this, get it on TV. It's entirely possible he starts his own wrestling promotion. It's entirely possible he takes the money that he's already made and invest in the NWA or invest in Ring of Honor or invest in Impact or something like that. And maybe he buys some shares into one of those companies. Maybe he invests into one of these indies that's floating around out here. It is entirely possible that he could. It'd be a lot easier than starting his own promotion. If he can buy in as part owner to, I don't know, maybe NWA or something. And then he's, has the ability to go do other things with it. It could be a little bit different. He could, still have one foot in the business. If he wanted to wrestle, he's got a place that he can work, that he owns, that's his. And then he can also do some executive stuff. Now, I'm not suggesting he's going to do that, but I'm just saying if he wanted to, he has executive level, experience in order to do those certain things, all that stuff. So he could easily, with the exception of New Japan, maybe buy into one of these independent wrestling promotions, buy one, that shouldn't be too much of a problem to find something, but to start one from the ground up and to have to do the recruiting all over again, and then to know that, he did all that work for AEW and then kind of wasn't really appreciated near the end. That's a little bit heartbreaking. That's why I think he's going to go on sabbatical. That's why I think he's not going to do the wrestling thing for a while. I think he's going to disappear. He probably wants to go away for a while. He's got a new baby, go be a dad. He doesn't need to work, right now. He's not like you or me who needs to go to work in the morning. He probably got a little nest egg posted up somewhere. He's probably doing all right. Go do something else. Now, I watched a video by Vince Russo because I was doing something else and I just put the video on. And it was Vince Russo, Ben Amin, and Stevie Richards. And they were talking about what this could possibly mean for AEW. For instance, is it the rats jumping off the ship? Because a lot of people thought Jericho was going to be the first to leave. Some people thought it was going to be Moxley. Moxley, of course, that's, it's a different thing with him. But a lot of people thought, okay, Cody is leaving. Does he know something that other people don't know? Is it that he asked for too much money and now, AEW has maybe a stiff budget and he can't, they can't pay him what he wants to be paid? Could it be that there's something going on with the TBS deal? Maybe the business isn't right and he knows and he's trying to get off the ship first. Kind of like Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal came out there and was public. He knew Ring of Honor was going under. He got off that ship quick. He even said, I don't even want to do Best in the World. I'm out of here. Oh no, it wasn't Best in the World. It was the Final Battle. I'm out of here. He went and signed somewhere else immediately. It's entirely possible that Cody can say, look, I'm looking at the books. He's an executive. Maybe he's sitting in one of these meetings or something like that. He hears some stuff that he doesn't like. And he's like, wait a minute. Why would I re-sign here? I should just leave. That's possible, but we don't know. We know that the Khans have endless amounts of money. But we don't know, just because they have it, how much of it they're willing to spend. They've been spending a lot of money lately. And maybe that's just a part of that, is that Cody is one of those guys that they feel like they don't need anymore. Maybe hey, Cody, thanks for the leg up, but we don't really need you anymore. That's entirely possible, but the conspiracy theory now that's floating around is that Cody is, sort of the canary in the coal mine. That him leaving is a red flag that maybe things ain't all right over in Jacksonville. I wouldn't say that. It's entirely possible, but without full knowledge of what's going on as far as the financials of AEW, I don't know. WrestleNomics, I believe it was, they suggested that AEW has made $84 million. I think last year they claimed $84 million in merchandise, pay-per-view, and television. And, but they have increased their spending by a lot. And this is something that I thought was probably one of the smartest things I ever heard on a Vince Russo stream. Is the guy, I believe it was Ben Hameen, who said, when you look at the ratings for AEW Dynamite and in the early days, and you consider what the cost per running that show was before the pandemic, of course, look at the quality of the talent they had on that show, and then look at the ratings for the shows. And now they have slightly better ratings, but they have increased their spending exponentially. And this is coming after the pandemic. Tony Khan himself said that AEW would not have survived the pandemic, if they had to shut down. AEW would have been dead because the TV deal would have gotten violated and it would have been over. That was what Tony Khan said. And so they and it was the first time I listened to a Vince Russo stream and I was kind of like, man, he making some good points. They was booted off of TNT shortly after Tony Khan's friend in TNT left. They got moved over to TBS, which they saying is a downgrade. I think TBS is in more homes than TNT, but it is a different network. Now, Cody's leaving. You if it was WWE, people would be raising eyebrows because it's kind of suspicious, like some of these big losses that they're taking. But they're covering it up because they got some big signings too. But those signings, how big are they really? Like, is Tony Khan overpaying for some of these guys? But back to what I was saying. It's right along that same point. Look at the ratings for the TV show now. But look at how much money they're spending now on the Adam Coles, on the Keith Lees, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Sting. All these guys who were not there in 2019 when the show started, they're there now, and they're making a grip. And I remember it was somebody else I was listening to, and they were talking about the amount of money AEW spends per episode. Because you have to pay everybody who's on the screen. And AEW does this thing where they try to jam as many people as possible on television. That it has to be one of the most expensive wrestling shows ever. And they were doing 10-man tags pretty much every other week. Like, it does get a bit exorbitant. And this is why WWE will constantly do rematches. They'll cut corners. Constantly do rematches, kind of shave down the tag team division. There's not that many tag teams. That sort of thing. It's all cost-cutting measures. And then AEW has been proudly flaunting the money. So if WrestleNomics is correct and they made $84 million, let's ask ourselves, how much did they actually spend? How much did they spend? We don't know. Like, that's the hard part. How much did they spend on running Chicago, which is an expensive market, again and again and again? New York, same thing. Run that market up numerous times within the same quarter. Those are expensive markets, big money talent on the show. Those things get kind of expensive. Maybe, is it true? Is it possible that Cody knows something that we don't know? Yes. Is it possible that Cody's going to go and start, spilling the tea and telling everybody, AEW's business? I don't believe that. I don't believe this was even amicable. I don't believe the separation is even amicable. I think that, it was just a thing where they couldn't come to terms. And that happens. That happens. So, I know a lot of the Kanastanis are on, they need a one-to-one. They need a moment. But I'm thinking that this is, it's good for AEW. It's a big change in talent, but they have far more talent to cover it up. Cody leaving. Hell, Cody wasn't on the show all the time anyway. Especially in recent months. Cody has been downplayed. So it's not like it's going to be a huge separation. He wasn't like a huge part of the show. But it's symbolic. It's a interesting symbolic thing that now Cody is leaving. It's a very interesting proposition. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.